Okay, so this class video also may come in two parts, okay? Part 1, part 2. Part 1 about 14-15 minutes and then part 2 now. So, as I was saying, there is no need to make Vedanta scientific or science Vedantic. They are Bhinna Prakarna. You have studied that in the Brahma Sutras, etc. Separate subject matter, separate field of inquiry. Separate field of inquiry. In fact, some people even talk about a spiritual process. The process is only as far as your mind is concerned. Again, in terms of getting your mind ready, etc. Your secondary sadhanas. Yes, that is definitely a process connected with your process of living. But pure Vedanta is based on just cognition, knowing who you are. Okay? So, then the question is, what exactly is the nature of that consciousness, etc. Which he says in the next two verses. Any questions or clear?
So, Swamiji, just one question here.
Yeah.
The whole notion of an experience, the subjective experience I'm having, that itself is beyond the remit of science, right? Science cannot even get to the subjective.
Exactly. Yeah. See, because two things come here. One, you are talking about a subjective experience, which very often science cannot study, because I can objectify my mind, but you cannot objectify my mind. So that is the difficulty of studying my subjective experience. But science makes an attempt to study it by correlating it, your mental state, with some brain function, etc. So the whole attempt is only that much. Because anything has to be measured, what will be measured? How can you measure love, for example? But you can measure what happens in my brain when I have a feeling of love. So it's inferential.
Understood.
Yeah. But how does the scientist know that I am thinking of a person or I am thinking of a bar of chocolate? The scientist doesn't know that. How does he know what I am thinking of?
Right.
Think of someone you love. This girl was told when she was put into the all the scans were put. Think of someone tall, dark, and handsome. Yes. One big bar of dark chocolate. So all the centers lighted up, everything. So that's why that even a subjective experience cannot be measured. But there are some attempts, especially with a lot of yogis, etc. They go into a meditative state. You know, Buddhism is very good in this. And it is good in a way because it helps reaching out to a secular crowd, to a skeptical crowd. That much it helps, nothing more than that. Nothing more than that. So Buddhists do this. Their monks, etc., are willing to sit down in an experimental lab and be treated like lab rats. Okay, treated like lab rats. Where they're supposed to sit in meditation and all sorts of stuff is attached to them to see what it is. So they, meditative changes happen. But there is no neuroplasticity of the brain is known. What's the big deal about it? Okay. So certain brain changes can happen.
Thank you so much.
So that is where it is referred to. Yeah. But it has its point, has a limited function. Okay. Then going on to the question of consciousness, okay, with the pramana of the Vedanta, he says, Chakshurita dhiyo vrittihi yayatam pashyan lupt alupta drag drishte drishta bhaved atma shrutehe shrota tatha bhaved kevala manaso vritti pashyan mantar mater rajaha विज्ञान अलुप्त साक्षित्वात् तथा शास्त्रम नहीं यतः तथा शास्त्रम, he says. Okay, from the standpoint of the Shastra, what is this? Chakshuryuta Diyaha. The mind that is associated with the sense organ of this thing, okay? With your eyes. The mind that is associated with your sense organ eyes sees an object for which there is a relevant vritti inside. That vritti is seen by you, the alupta drik, the drik who is always there. The drashta, the you, the one that objectifies, sees. Drishtahe drishtaha bhavet atma. And drishtahe drishta bhaved atma. What is atma? The one that sees, you seeing the thought. Mind sees the object. Through the sense organ, the mind sees the object. You are the one that sees that mind. You are the one that sees the seeing mind. Drishtahe drishta. What we call sakshi. Drishtahe drishta bhaved atma. That's the atma. Shrutehe shrota tatha bhaved. Long back we had seen something. Eye of the eye, ear of the ear.
Yeah, Keno.
Huh?
Keno Upanishad.
Keno. Now you know where he is referring to. What is referring to? Eye of the eye, ear of the ear. Okay? Shrota tata bhavet. Shrutehe shrota. Whatever is heard, the one who hears that. Objectifies that hearing. Kevala manasam vrittihi pashyannata mate rajaha. Ajaha. The one who is unborn doesn't come into existence. Why? Vritti comes into existence, I objectify that. Without external objects also vritti can come in. I objectify that, he says. Kevalam manasa vritte pashyen mantaha mate raja ajaha. I keep thinking, all the thoughts, ajaha, unborn, always there, objectifies it. Vijñataha alupta shaktitva. The Vijñata, the one who objectifies the whole thing. Alupta drishyatva. Always the drishi. Thoughts are there, you will see the thoughts. In waking and in dream. Irrespective of what thought it is. Good, bad, ugly, whatever. The judgment is done by your mind. I only have a job of objectifying it. Dream also same thing. Keep objectifying. All vrittis die down. Deep sleep. Objectify the sleeping mind. Mind is in samadhi. Objectify the samadhistha mind. Mind is agitated, turbulent. Objectify the turbulent mind. Okay. Therefore, alupta shaktitva tatha shastram nahi yataha. That means what? He says, the consciousness of me, of I, never goes out. Meaning I am always conscious. Body is conscious because there is a mind associated with this body. And that mind is caught up in this body. Therefore the body is conscious. My sense organs are conscious to see the world. The consciousness belongs to the mind. That's when you are asleep, you are not feeling anything. Physically, what are you feeling? Nothing. You arrange the mosquito net, the good night, this, that, everything, so that nothing will trouble you. And that mat expired in the night. And mosquitoes are feasting on you. But you are not aware of it. Why? Because you are fast asleep. Therefore, there happens. Similarly, the mind is conscious because of you consciousness. Because the mind is not always conscious, you can go to sleep. If the mind was always conscious, would you be able to sleep? Mind is always seeing things. You will not be able to sleep. But no, The consciousness of the mind is because of its association with me, the consciousness. That's why the consciousness doesn't sleep. It objectifies the sleeping mind. So that when you get up, you can say, I slept well. Why? Because when you get up, you identify with the mind and you say, I slept well. Actually, it should be mind slept well. Yeah. But please don't change your language because you are understanding of Vedanta, okay? That will become spiritual snobbery. This body is hungry, this mind is sleepy. Ravade, as the Gujaratis say. No. Yeah. Yeah. You slept. Everyone understands. Those who don't know the Atma, they will take you slept. Good enough. Those who know the Atma, they know that your mind slept, not the Atma. So why do you want to change language anyway? Yeah. So this is the question. This is the thing he says. The eye of the eye, the mind of the mind, the ear of the ear. The eye of the eye cannot be an eye. The ear of the ear cannot be an ear. Correct. That's the mind that's correlating all this as knowledge. Fine. What about the mind of the mind? The one that objectifies the mind. That cannot be a mind. By the same logic. By the same logic, the one that objectifies the mind cannot be the mind. And not only that, if you remember Drigdrishya Viveka, the object is seen, I is the seer. Correct? The eye is objectified. The eye is the seen. Do you see clearly? No, I require some help with my specs, etc. Therefore, the eye is seen, mind is the seer. The mind is seen, I am the seer. Mind is seen, I am the seer. And when are you objectified? Never. Never. You are in the mind, you are beyond the mind, both. See, this is, people stress only on one or the other. Either they will stress on what is beyond the mind, beyond the mind, beyond the mind, and you will end up with Beyond Ananda. There's a writer called Beyond Ananda. He makes a spoof of Vedanta very nicely. Okay. Very nice spoof you will hear from him. Beyond Ananda. So in that case, okay, Beyond Ananda. And others will say in the mind, then make it experiential. Or academic, one of the two things. Yeah. If you're a scholar, you'll try to make it academic, or if you're an experiential person, you'll try to make it an experience. Both don't know the truth. Both don't know the truth.
Swamiji?
Yeah.
When we say mind, then we include manasa and buddhi also.
Yeah, both are.
Actually, it will be in buddhi if the manifestation will take place. And
correct.
But right.
Only for functional purposes we see a difference. Otherwise, is one antakarna. Mind, buddhi, etc. We use these words as different only for the sake of emphasis, whether it is emotion, thinking, etc. But they are often used interchanged. How do you know? With your mind. No, mind is emotion, intellect. In normal language, we don't say that. No? So it is in that sense. Though you are right. Manas is more of emotion and buddhi is more of reasoning and things like that. Yeah. So knowledge in the buddhi. So we use a global term, either buddhi or mind. I use mind, not buddhi, because I don't want you all to mistake buddhi for brain. That's the only reason I am doing that. Yeah. Because buddhi काम नहीं चलता, you will say. So because each word will have its own limitation. Because remember, most of these words we are using in a Lakshana sense when it comes to Vedanta. So that problem will always be there. Yeah. Contextually you have to understand it. Yeah. So there it is. So, so the buddhi itself objectifies things only because the consciousness literally lends the consciousness to the mind, to the buddhi and mind, to your antakarna. Yeah. And because of that, the mind can know things. The mind itself is objectified and known by me. I am conscious. That is why, see, look at your experiences now in the light of Vedanta. Okay, when you are dealing with a problem in your mind, with an issue in your mind, you literally have to take a step back from that issue to see it. No? Why do you go and talk to somebody about it? Because in that talking, you are actually objectifying your mind, taking a step back. If you are not exposed to these disciplines, Eastern disciplines, you don't know how to take that step back. Though it is natural, it is human to be able to take a step back. If you are a human being, you can take a step back from your mind and objectify your mind. Because that's your true nature anyway. But since you are so caught up in the mind, we need the help of somebody else to be able to take that step back. So that person is only a facilitator for you. But the mind is always objectified. Otherwise, how do you know that you know something? How do you know that you know? It's possible only if you objectified the mind, not otherwise. Only then it is possible. Yeah. Your knowledge you have objectified. If you know and don't know that you know, then you are asleep. If you know and don't know that you know, then you must be asleep. If you know and then you know that you know, then you can use that knowledge. If you don't know but know that you don't know, you can learn. If you don't know and don't know that you don't know, then that's very foolish stand to take. Okay. Yeah, then thoda life's experiences will shock you a bit, and you will bump into your own ignorance. You will be forced to acknowledge it. Yeah, you will be forced to acknowledge it. So, as far as I, the conscious, is concerned, I know. I objectify everything. All that is there is objectified by the I consciousness. No issues, no problems. Okay.
So, Swamiji,
Yeah.
If I can ask a question regarding vrittis.
Yeah.
So let us say, for example, I am listening to music with my headphones, and I'm focusing on some. My eyes are focused on a book, let us say, and I'm so focused on the book that I'm not able to hear the music, because even though it's playing.
Correct.
So is it fair to say that the vrittis of the music are arising in my mind, but since the consciousness is not behind it, therefore I am not conscious of it? Is that a right way to say?
That could be that generally that would be the thing. Okay. Generally, but it could also be that you are so focused on your sight that even though the sound is registered, the objectification is not happening. See, the whole process of knowing involves two things, remember? Your mind has to take the form of the object, whether the object is something perceived by your eyes or your ears or touch, anything. The mind has to take the form. That's called a vritti. It's called vritti vyapti.
Yes.
Then you have to objectify it, to have a subject-object relationship with it. But the subject is focused on something else. Therefore, the phala vyapti is not happening. So you don't know this part of it. You don't know. That's why multitasking is a little bit of a compromise on both the tasks, isn't it? Yeah, you compromising both the tasks. Therefore, it can be done only with tasks that does not require your total involvement.
Swamiji, can we do this consciously also?
Tune out something, of course. What is meditation? But consciously tuning off from something. It can be done. You can consciously tune off. You can consciously focus. All that you can do. Is learning to how to handle your mind. That's all. Like when you come for a class, you consciously keep all other things away. No? That's why in a home class it's difficult. Because the maid will come and ask you something. Difficult, you know. And you can't tell her don't ask. I mean, she also has to get her job done at home. No? All of you are living in families, not like me. If the class and the maid timing clash, I'll say maid don't come. Kal kar lo. No problems. But that can't be the norm in every household, because something or the other will be there. Yeah. If you have a small kid at home, he will want to come and see, no? What's happening. If there's a small 3-year-old at home, 3-4-year-old at home, you want to come and want to see. And that's part of the game, part of the fun. No issues. As long as you don't lose your focus. Don't lose your focus on it. That's all. So sometimes you can be so focused you don't hear other things. Phala Vyapti doesn't take place. Vritti Vyapti is taking place. Phala Vyapti is not taking place. Don't, okay, which I also have to say here, don't confuse this with Akhandakara Vritti. Akhandakara Vritti also Phala Vyapti doesn't take place because it cannot take place. It need not take place. But still you will know. Why? Because the Phala Vyapti has negated the ignorance. That much it has done. Subject-object relationship is not necessary because already known as I. That we saw in the last class. I am is known to me. Therefore that part of it is easy. Not necessary. Therefore an Akhandakara Vritti, Phala Vyapti doesn't take place, cannot take place, nor necessary. Here it is necessary but doesn't take place. Not cannot, doesn't take place because your mind is focused elsewhere.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. So with that. ध्यायति इति अविकारित्वं यथा लेला इति इत्यपि अत्र स्तनेति शुद्धत्वं तथा अनवगतं श्रुतेः. Now he is quoting from the Brihadaranyaka, okay? Yeah. From the Brihadaranyaka he is quoting. The Atma appears to be Dhyayati iva. The Atma happens to be rooted in meditation. The Atma Lelayati iva is going here and there. Iva. Iva meaning as though. Why? Because Atma is neither contemplating nor disturbed. Your mind can contemplate, your mind can be disturbed. That is your experience, isn't it? You come and tell me mind is disturbed. Swamiji, tell me something to handle my mind. My mind is very disturbed. So how do you know it is disturbed? Because I am watching it. I am seeing it disturbed. If you are seeing it disturbed, you are not disturbed. No? You are independent of the disturbed mind. Isn't it a fact? You go on the seashore and you watch the turbulent ocean. Do you become turbulent? The wave is going up and down. Do you also go up and down? You don't. You're watching. Unless you jump into that. So, Lelayati eva, as though it is disturbed, as though it is meditating. What? I am meditating now. I'm very disturbed, so I started doing some meditation. Then your meditation also will be disturbed. You quieten yourself and then meditate. Okay. So that identification is because of the identification of the mind. It looks as though you are quiet. It looks as though you are disturbed. Eva. Really speaking, you are neither quiet nor disturbed. If you are disturbed, I can say you have to be quiet. No? Disturbance and quietude in the mind. I am independent. I am independent. Atra sneti shuddhatvam. So, in one of the dream states, you became a thief. You dreamt that you were a thief. That was your job. हो सकता है. Some movie you saw where the thief is the hero. Robin Hood like. Okay. Thomas Crown Affair. If you want to have a little bit more modern movie. And you identified with her, so you dreamt about it. But Atma, is it a thief? Or let us say in real life you are become a thief. Are you really a thief? Shuddhatvam, he says, Tatha anavagatam shrutehe. This is what you understand from the Shruti. That the Atma is always independent of everything else. It is in and through everything else, but independent of everything else. That's the beauty of it. This is the beauty. It is not only beyond everything, independent of, when you say beyond, you mean actually independent. You are independent of everything and you are in and through everything. The closest example you can get is space. Space is in and through everything, uncontaminated by anything, independent of everything. But space is not conscious, I am conscious. Space is inert, not conscious, not sentient. If space was sentient, you will not have any privacy in your functioning. As it is, we don't have, because all of us have a habit of taking our phones to the loo also. I also have that habit. I mean, who doesn't have that habit, tell me? Because all messages, etc. So, good time to check out all that. The problem is when you get a call. If you get an ordinary call, not a problem. If you get a video call and you don't recognize it's a video call, वो भी होता है. Yeah, you thought it's a WhatsApp call, it had turned out to be a video call, then quickly you have to turn it off. Hey, it can happen to anyone, come on. Don't tell me it has not happened to anyone here. It happened to me once. I saw the video call and turned it upwards. I said, hold on a minute, I'll call you back. Look. होता है. Yeah, normally we are all alert people, but sometimes we can stumble, become a little bit habitual response can happen. Because what do you do when you get a call first thing? Yes, no? When you are not involved in anything, you will answer it. No? So these type of things can happen, but in all of them you are independent. An experience like that happened, but you are independent of that experience. I felt very embarrassed. Okay, I can understand. Human response. Okay. So what I am saying is the Atma is in and through everything, in and through all your experiences. Because it's in and through your mind, it's in and through your knowledge, it's in and through your prana, it is in and through your body. We started with talking about privacy, space, okay? Yeah. It's in and through every experience of yours. In fact, it is you, the one that's going through the whole experience. The content of that experiencer is I, the consciousness. Independent of all the experience, in and through all the experience. Once you recognize that, that is freedom. Therefore, you will not judge yourself on the basis of your experiences, on the basis of what you do, on the basis of your roles that you play. Because you are independent of it. Others may, that's a different question. Others may. That's perfectly their freedom to do so. Yeah. Like an article of mine was put on Facebook. I'm telling you how people judge and all this thing, and it is perfectly fine, okay? I'm saying all this to recognize your independence in the whole thing, even bringing in this knowledge into the functional life. It is a simple article that I had written for this one paper in Bombay. I write, once in a way I write this article because they asked me to do. They supported us during our Vedic Wisdom Festival and all, with free advertisements, everything. So I respond by giving them articles as and when they want. So I wrote an article on the protest that is happening in the country, of how many of you must have read that, of how years back when I was in college we were protesting against some stupid rule of dress code. This dress code happens in every generation. There's a protest against the dress code in colleges in every generation. Okay. And there was someone from the neighboring college, a representative, who came and said, we don't know what you are protesting against, but we support you. So even at that time I couldn't help laughing at it. Then I drew a parallel with that. Said when many of the protests in this country that's happening, that gets an echo abroad, is like this. They don't know what's happening, but they're supporting the protest. Oh, and some of the people commented on it. As it is, Modi government is like that, why are you supporting them more? Arey wah, on usko upar. He has the freedom to say it, of course he has. Yeah. Who says just because I know him he cannot say it? Or that he has sat in my class for some time, he cannot say that? Of course he can say that. So others will judge. This will happen. You will not judge yourself on the basis of that. That's important. Because to judge yourself on the basis of experience is what we call samsara. Then what is it when you are judging yourself on the basis of somebody else's opinion?
Lack of self-esteem.
People pleaser. Yes.
Yeah,
You become a people pleaser. Yeah. That's how it becomes. Okay. Alright. That's a sidelight. The thing is, but that doesn't mean you have to be aggressive, this, that, etc. You can be very quietly, okay, that's his opinion, fine. Yeah. And if necessary to take a stand, you can take a stand also. Yeah. Okay, now the same idea from a different standpoint he's talking about. Shakti alupta suptehe nyaha tata bodhe avikarataha Nyeyasyeva visheshastu yatra veti shruter vachaha. Okay. Shakti alupta shukte. The ability, Shakti here means ability to know the truth. The ability to know means to objectify the consciousness ability. He says, aluptaha supte. Shupte api aluptaha. Even in deep sleep, it is not absent. Double negative. Okay. Even in deep sleep, it is not absent. That means this ability to objectify is the nature of the consciousness. What comes and goes cannot be your true nature. What comes and goes cannot be your true nature. It is incidental to you. What remains with you always, that is your true nature. So, he says the consciousness does not come and go. Even in sleep it does not go. Aluptaha. Tatha bodhe avikarataha. Not only that. Bodha avikarataha. It does not modify. The mind knows things by changing, by modifying. Book thought, pen thought, laptop thought, different people. The mind knows only by undergoing change. With respect to every object, there has to be a vritti. That's the only way you will know your mind. That's the only way the mind will know things. Does the consciousness have to change? Problem ho jayega. If the consciousness has to change to know things, then you will need another consciousness to objectify this and say, this is how it's happening. But that consciousness also has to change. Then there has to be another one. Ad infinitum it will go. So what? Let it become like that. That means as a baby you are opened your eyes to see something, to see your mom, and the thought is still clicking inside, another consciousness. But that is not true. As a baby and as a grown up, there is a finality of knowledge. This is a pen. There is a finality here. That finality shows that not only you know this is a pen, you also know that you know the pen. Two knowledge here. You know the pen and you know that you know the pen. There is a finality there. That finality proves that the consciousness doesn't have to undergo change. Supporting proof, okay? Supporting logic that the consciousness does not undergo a change gathered from the basis of your experience. Because if the consciousness was changing, then you will need something else to register. You can register change only with a framework which is free from that change. How do you know how far the car is going when you are driving a car? Supposing there is no speedometer. You will have to require an external framework to record it. Those trees are moving fast, that means the signposts are moving fast, milestones are moving fast. So you need a stable framework to recognize your motion. And sometimes you are so used to the motion you don't recognize it. Two motions you are going through right now. One is rotatory and one is circulatory. The earth is moving around the sun. But you don't even recognize it. Why? Because you are not in touch with the framework. Because of the sun, etc. and your clock, you recognize the rotatory one you recognize. Earth is rotating. You recognize that. Only because of that framework. But the other one, you recognize only with change of seasons and things like that, isn't it? Do you really feel you're moving fast? You feel you're stationary. Why? Because the other framework is not in your mind. But when you say, my mind is changing and I can know all the different things, that means what? You are free from the change. That you are taking a stand on a framework which is free from that change. Yeah. Then why do I feel I'm changing? Because you are independent and you are in and through both. So when you identify with the in and through, you feel you are changing out of ignorance alone. When you are identifying with the thing, in and through aspect of the Atma, then you feel you are changing. When you recognize the changeless, you know it is not changing. Or even if you take a step back and objectify that mind, you know you are independent, not changing. But because we don't know, we only taken a step back. If we don't know, then I'll get involved again, then I'll step back, I'll get involved, I'll step back. Whereas if you know, you're always independent even when you're involved. Because that is your real nature anyway. The weight of the wave sits lightly on water. Water doesn't experience the weight of the wave. A ship can feel the weight of the wave. But not the water. So in and through, free. In and through, independent, both simultaneously. In and through and independent simultaneously. This is the freedom of Vedanta. Total. Completely untouched. Yeah, come, you have a question. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, does this connect to the Gita verse that I am in them, they are in me?
Huh? Yeah,
That
in a way you can connect up. Yeah.
Yeah.
9th
And
chapter.
also one more question,
Shoot.
please. Yeah, that when we talk about science and Vedanta, in the previous verse you spoke, that science, it goes up to the thing of singularity, right? But then they come to hit a block when they say that there's a state of no information.
There's a
Is
state
that
of?
Of no information.
Huh.
That before the Big Bang, there's a state of no information. Do we take that? Is it connected to this consciousness?
No.
No.
See, even if you say there is a state of no information, what you are talking about is an avyakta state, unmanifest state. But that doesn't mean there is no potential information. When you are looking at it through Vedanta, that information potential has to be there. Otherwise, without knowledge, how can you manifest? Without knowledge, how can a manifestation happen?
So where does science get stuck? I just want to know.
Science gets stuck because it can't handle consciousness.
Huh?
And because the paradigm is too materialistic. Materialistic means not have fun and things like that. That's not what I mean. Materialistic because everything is an evolute of matter.
Matter.
That is why it gets stuck. That's why they are trying to change by bringing some biology into it. But biology is also not enough because you are studying only brain function. That's also matter.
Yeah.
A bit better than relying only on physics. Combine physics and biology together, you will get some better insights.
Yeah.
But that's all, it will remain only that much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So it's good to study science, it's good to study all these disciplines because you'll know what standpoint they're talking about. Otherwise, we get confused with all sorts of stuff that's happening. So it's good to study all this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Not at all. Okay, this is Shruter Vacha. Okay, therefore, Jnyeyasyeva Visheshastu Tatra Veti Shrutehe Vacha. Therefore, Shrutehe Vacha. What is that? That whether it is waking, dream or deep sleep, the consciousness is always consciousness. What is the difference? What is objectified keeps different. What is objectified keeps changing. What is objectified keeps changing. Nothing else keeps changing. Physical objects, internal objects, absence of objects, isn't it? Objects keep changing. You are always the drishta, always the one that is objectifying everything else, aware of everything else, conscious of everything else. That doesn't change at all. That your consciousness doesn't change. What you are conscious of keeps changing. What you are aware of keeps changing. Samjhi, then there is a duality, na? Subject-object divide is there, no? Subject-object divide is dismissed by bringing in the understanding of mithya and satyam.
Yeah.
That's why without satyam and mithya, Vedanta is not complete, okay? Who's trying to contact me all the time? Okay? Without satyam, mithya difference, understanding, Vedanta is never complete. Vedanta is never complete because of that. Because unless the whole universe is a manifestation of consciousness. It's only if the whole universe is a manifestation of consciousness can there be non-duality. And an apparent manifestation, not a real manifestation. Yeah. Only then will the whole game thing work. Otherwise there will be no Advaita Siddhi. You will say we are all pockets of consciousness. We are aware of everything. Which is nice. Sakshi Bhavam. Halfway house I always say it, isn't it? I am aware. Conscious. Great degree of functioning I can have. But my duality will not go. My sense of samsaritvam will not go. My capability of handling problems will be high. That's all. The highest degree of competency possible. Fine. But does your finitude go away with that? Guy can't get it. Your finitude will not go away with that. Your finitude will continue. Instead of saying body, mind, etc., you are replacing it with Sakshi consciousness. Sakshi Chaitanyam, you are replacing it with that. That is all, nothing else. You are not replacing it with anything else. One idea is being replaced by another finite idea, a better finite idea, but still finite. Whereas if you understand that consciousness is limitlessness, for that you necessarily have to see that everything that is there is a manifestation of the consciousness. And when you say manifestation, you have to understand it is not a real change, it's an apparent change. Because if it's a real change, it comes under the hold of time and space, your consciousness becomes finite. That's a big problem. The consciousness becomes finite. So if you have to understand the consciousness as limitlessness, then all change cannot happen. No change can happen. Because limitlessness. How can the limitlessness change? For the limitlessness to change, it has to become finite. For the limitless to change, it has to come under the hold of time. If it comes under the hold of time, it is no more limitlessness. Then your problem of samsara will never be solved. Finitude will be normal. And if it's normal, you won't struggle to free yourself from it. But you do struggle to free from it. That means it's not normal. Your own struggle is an indication that it is not normal. You may not say it is freedom from finitude, etc. You may not say that. It may be expressed in very simple terms. I want to be happy. I want to be fulfilled. I want some joy. I want to be free from these hassles. You'll see all that. You'll see all that. And keep it at that. But that shows that what you're really striving for and what is behind all your desires is this moksha ichha. This is the heart of it. And the solution happens to be the pramana. The solution happens to be the pramana. So without handling the pramana, how will you ever handle the problem? The solution is the pramana. The solution is in the pramana of discovering yourself as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. So the discovery of Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman is what we are after. And that is cognitive. It can't be a process. Because if it's a process, it's finite. If it is a process, it becomes finite. Karma orientation, process orientation. You are replacing the word karma, which was traditionally used, by saying process. But all process involves series of action anyway, external or internal. So the result is always finite. Result is always finite. You can't say, do this program and all your karmas are burnt up and you will gain moksha. You can't say that. By one finite karma, you are replacing how many karmas can you negate? Karma cannot be negated by karmas. A particular karma can be negated by another karma. That's called prayaschitta. But all karmas cannot be negated by one karma. All karmas cannot be done by one karma. Okay. Therefore, the freedom will only be in Shrutehe Vachaha, in the words of the Shruti, that you have to know yourself as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. Anything short of that, not enough. Anything short of that will not deliver the goods. Some of these ideas you are familiar with, some of them I am emphasizing on. Before we go into higher text, I want you all to be very, very clear with these ideas. Okay? So think it over. Okay? Think it over. It's a good place to stop. Think it over. Come back with whatever doubts, questions that you have, and we'll handle all that. Any questions now, right now, or okay? Right now things are clear?
Can I ask, Swamiji?
Sure, Kavita, ask.
Swamiji, in a way, then is the mind really not not affected by time? Because you see the other things like body does that decays in a way in the world.
Yeah.
But mind like thoughts etc. change. But mind, really speaking, is not really affected by time, no? Because it remains the same.
See, that's one way of looking. There's one way of looking that your manaha, buddhi, is not affected by time, because time is a product of the mind. So that's one way of looking at it. But thoughts keep changing, so that much is there. The changing part is there. The aging part is not there. The changing part of time is always there. Yeah. Change is always there. Yeah. So that much. And the consciousness objectifying those changes, so you are independent of all the changes. Yeah, Karthik.
Oh, sorry, Swami. I was just about to say that even the notion of aging is just a concept, right?
Yeah.
It is just anyway change happening anyway. Right?
Exactly. There are some types of changes happening in this thing, that's all. Some type of changes happening in your body. That's why people age at different times. No? Whereas if you take a radioisotope, okay, same molecule of the same isotope will all age at the same time. Whereas all human beings do not age in the same manner. Your mind may grow tired, bored, fed up, too much of hassles, too much of responsibilities, but doesn't age. It may become unenthusiastic. But I've seen 80-year-olds with the enthusiasm of 30-year-olds. The guy in my class, sometimes the enthusiasm becomes a little bit of a pain. All sorts of messages, this, that, etc. because he's enthusiastic about things. Once a day message is fun to see. Half a dozen, laga do. Retired man doesn't have anything else to do, but he's enthusiastic about life, and some of them are interesting.
Swamiji, what is the meaning of Akhandakara?
Akhanda means what?
Indivisible.
Indivisible. Akara means
Appearance.
what appears as indivisible. That means it's not really an appearance. The vritti, remember we talked about the vritti couple of classes back. What is Akhanda, Akara, vritti and all we have talked. Same thing. So good place to stop. More of this next class. Think about it. Any doubt, clarification, you can always handle. Okay. Om Tat Sat.
Thank you.